Okay. Oh, there we go.
Good evening, everybody. Nice to see everybody.
Hello.
God bless you all. Welcome.
Thank you. Likewise.
How are you?
You. All right. Here we go. Right, so let me just push in my hair. Okay. So we were in the middle of the Beit Yosef, I think, if I'm not
Yes,
mistaken.
yes,
Yeah,
and Beit Yosef Dalet.
right, okay. You said,
No.
There's $2, Dalet Aleph and Dalet Bet, I think, right? Am I right? No,
It's just for Beit
$1.
Yosef.
Okay,
$1.
$1. Okay. Uh-huh. So I don't think we started that. Wait.
The Beit Yosef.
We did, right? We did. So we were on the tour, or we were on the Bet Yosef?
Beit Yosef. We did the
Uh-huh.
tour, and
Where did we stop? Do you remember like exactly where we stopped?
If I'm not mistaken, where it says V'chatav Rabbeinu Hakadol.
Oh, right. Yes, my friend. Good.
If I'm not
Good.
mistaken.
Just came back to me. Good.
Is that right?
I think so, yeah. He likes the challenge. You know, some people like the challenge.
Okay. How's it start again? V'chatav Rabbeinu Hakadol.
Rabbeinu Hagadol.
Some white lines.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So it says, Katav Rabbeinu Hagadol Mahari Abu Hab. This was the Rebbe of Maran. I think I told you guys, right? He was from Spain. Okay, so anyway, he says, B'Shem Manhig, in the name of the Manhig, which is one of the Rishonim, Shekadeh shelo yam'itu aksharim bezot hamida, yarichu etzba yoter. So he says, you know what? Like, don't make it exactly that size, you know, that it's supposed to be. Make it a little bit longer, you know, so you have a little slack. You know what I mean? So we said, right, yesterday, it has to be, there's two opinions. One of them is that it should be 12 fingers, right, which is 24 centimeters. The length of the tzitzit altogether, right? Altogether, the length.
Yeah.
So 24 centimeters. This is how we paskin today, you know, pretty much that's what we do. There are some wise guys, you know, who like to make it the shorter size. You know, there are some guys like this also. They want to be cool, you know, like the other opinion, you know, whatever. They want to go like the other side. Whatever. I've seen that before. Okay, so they make it like very thin strings, you know, and very short. So it's like, looks like a baby kind of baby size. Okay. But anyway, right? So it says, right, that in order to do it well, put some slack in there, right? What does that mean? Make it a little bit longer than that, because you know you don't want to be exact, you want to be precise, you know, because then it could be a little bit shorter. It shrinks sometimes also, you know. You put it in the washer, it shrinks, you know, and then it's too small. You know what I mean? So you don't want to be exactly that size. You want to have a little slack. That's the idea, you know. So how much more? So it says make it one more etzba, one more finger. In other words, don't make it 24, make it at least 26. Right? So this way, you know, you're on the safe side. No problems. So it says it could be that because of this, katuv b'kolbo, it says in kolbo, another rishon, it says 13 fingers, right? Exactly what we said, which is 26 centimeters. So it says there is to be medakdek here. שהיה לרבנו להוסיף על אורך החוטים 2 או 3 אצבעות. So he says, you know, if you're really going to add, he really should have added like 2 or 3. Why only 1? You know, like if you really want to be safe.
2 or 3 fingers.
Sure. Like be liberal, you know, on the liberal side, you know, be generous, you know. What's the problem?
6-8 inches basically.
Maybe
That's not like 6-8 inches.
Yeah, I mean, the conversion from inches to centimeters is 2.45. So do the math, right? You know what it is. Okay, so 2.5, right? Approximately. Okay, so anyway, I'm sorry, you were saying something?
I was thinking maybe because like just do like one more.
Right, but might as well, to be liberal, right? Be generous, like that's the whole thing. Because the whole thing is you want to be safe, right? So doing one extra finger is not so safe because it could shrink, and all kinds of things. Sometimes they get cut, they get nicked, all kinds of things, right?
Yeah.
So okay, whatever. So anyway, it says it's about share makom tliat achutim bekanaf kodem, right? So it says so it gives you a reason for this also, not what I say, but look what he says, right? He says that the makom tliat achutim bekanaf kodem she'atchil la'asot gedil. So he says there's also the place where you hang the strings on the corner before you start to make the knots. Okay, so what does that mean? That's also part of it. But the thing is that's on the beged. It's on the, so it's not really, so you got to make it a little bit longer because that doesn't count. That's what he's saying. So you should do like 2 or 3 fingers, not one, right? The one is not enough to account for that problem.
So it's excluding where you're living on the beged.
Exactly. That's not a part of it, right? Because it's part of the beged. Has to be below the beged, right? Okay, so it says, so it says the place of the right. So it says that's gonna give you the one knot is gonna be about 1 finger size, with 1 finger until 3. Right? Let me read that again one time. So it says it's before that. Right. So basically, that's what it is. That that first knot is like 3 fingers because of the slack that we have there. So it's possible like this, that part of that string, right, of the tzitzit, which is close to the beged, to the beged, chashiv kegadil, it's considered to be part of the knots. So that's one possibility. That maybe that's why we don't need it. In other words, maybe you count that, like you said, right? It's possible. Maybe you do count it, right? The alternative, but it says it's more probable to say like this. Lomar the shloshat tfachim, the kamar. When he said 3 tfachim, meaning what? That's 24 centimeters. It's besides that part. So you got to have 24 besides that. That's what he really meant. So what does that mean? The part that starts to be below the beged. That's where you really start, right? Makes sense. Okay, good. So then he goes on. Katav Rambam says Rambam Perek Aleph Halacha Tet. He says over there, Ha'oseh lavan velot tchelet. If you're making just white with no tchelet, right? So what do? Lokeach chut echad. You take 1 string, mishmona chutin, from the 8, right? That you put in 8 there. Bekorech oto al shar chutin, and you wind them on the other ones, right? It's the windings, right? That we have the winding, juk 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 juk, right? These ad shlosha, and you wind them over the 3. Umaniach shne shlishitan anaf. So as we said, right, that the best way to do the proportion, it should be 2/3 strings and 1/3 knots. That's that's best proportion. We said it looks nice that way. It's beautiful like that.
What is it saying again, Rambam?
That so the Rambam is saying, right, that it should be 1/3 knots and 2/3 strings, like this, right? These are the knots, these are the strings, right? So it should be 1/3 this, 2/3 this. That's a nice proportion. Okay, so בלבן הקרא, בדבר הזה, ויש מי שאינו מדקדק בדבר הזה בלבן. So he says, but there are those, that don't really, they're not really particular about this when it comes to the white strings, only with the tchelet. Interesting. ונראה שטעם מי שאינו מדקדק. So says Maran, right? it seems like the reason why the one who's not medakdek, he doesn't care when it's white. Because it comes out from the language of the Gemara. Where is that? Menachot lamed tet amud aleph. It says over there, noyet chelet shalish gedil u'shnei shlishi anaf. So it says the Gemara like this. This is where the Rambam gets this from, right? The beauty of the chelet, it says, right? It doesn't say tzitzit. It says chelet. It says 1/3 knots, 2/3 strings, right? Exactly what the Rambam said. But it's implied over here that it's only when we have tchelet, because it's using the language of tchelet, right? Davka, diktaku bechach. Then they're particular about that. But when you don't have tchelet, we're not really particular about that so much. Interesting. What about the reason of the one who's machmir and says you should also do that with the white as well? What's the reason for him?
To do 1/3 strings, 2/3 knots.
Right, the other way around, right? The other way, yeah. 1/2 and 2/3. Because he holds the tchelet de kamar lab dafka. Because he holds that when it says tchelet in this Gemara, it doesn't mean really tchelet, it means tzitzit. He's talking about the mitzvah. Same thing also applies when you don't have tchelet. So he says, you know what? That the white is in the place of the tchelet. Meaning what? We don't have tchelet, so that's the best we can do, right? So it's a substitute. So you should do it the same way. That's the idea, you know? Why do it any different? What difference does it make? That's the idea. Okay, very good. So, right, it goes on. So now it tells you, like the tour, if you want to make it longer, no problem, right? In other words, you want to make it more than 24, you have the right to do that. You can make it 36 if you want. You know what the problem is, right? When you make it too long, it drags, you know? You get it dirty, like drags here, drags there. It's not very practical, you know, to make it too long. So, but if you want to, you know, let's say you're a tall guy, right? You're a basketball player, you know, 6'8", you know. So okay, you want to make it long? It's up to you. Whatever you want, you could do. There's no upper limit there with the length. That's what we're saying. Shikshu ala Braita, because they asked on the Braita, Gam ze Perek Tchelet. It's also from Perek Tchelet, right? Shikshu ala Braita. They asked on the Braita over there, Mem Aleph Amud Bet, the Gemara. Shkatabti besamuch. We already wrote it. He says close by. Mitanya tzitzit en la shiur. So since it says over there in the Braita, tzitzit has no shiur. It has no size. What does that mean? You can make it as big as you want. Umeshana en la shiur lemala. It means the upper limit, but the lower limit we have, right? We do have a lower limit, but the upper limit we don't have. You can't. You can make it as long as you want. Avad yesh la shiur lemata, but it does have a lower limit, as we said, right? 12 fingers is the lower limit according to this opinion. Rashi explains, en la shiur lemala doesn't have any upper limit. Rashi says, the kama de ba'e lehabe aroch. You can make it as long as you want, says Rashi. The Katav Mordechai says Mordechai sheri haya noheg, that Ri was noheg la soto aroch mishum gardomin. Oh, so he likes to make it long, Ri, right? Why gardomin? Let's see what that is, right? The Katav Od, he says also further, if it's going to be too long, you know what? Better to cut it. It's not called taseh v'lo nasi. Right? In other words, you're making the wrong order. Because it's not pasul now. Right? It's kosher the way it is. Pashut, so it's pashut. By the way, just want to tell you guys, right? That according to the Kabbalah, brings down the Ben Ish Chai, you're not supposed to cut the tzitzit with metal scissors. You know what I mean?
Why not?
According to Kabbalah, like it puzzles it.
So what is
Can you imagine?
So by Kabbalah, what are you supposed to
So
cut?
what do we do? You know, I'll tell you what we used to do in Israel. You know, when I was there, the dealers of talit, you know, they used to have special ceramic scissors. You know, ceramic, yeah, like clay, right? Ceramic scissors, yeah. And we used to use those. So you know, what do you call it? But you know what it is?
Like a stone almost.
Right. But you know what it is? That ceramic scissors is a ton of money, boatload of money. You know what I mean? It can cost like $150. I don't know, God, whatever. And I said to myself, you know, I was thinking about this a couple of months ago. You know, I said to myself, what do I need ceramic for? You know, let me just buy some plastic scissors. You know, that should do the job. You know what I mean? So you know, I went on Amazon and I ordered plastic scissors. You know, like the kitty ones. You know, the kitty scissors, and that works for me. You know, that's fine. You know, and why do you don't really need ceramic? I don't know why they don't think of this.
Ceramic is really used to make like kitchen counters and all that stuff.
Yeah, ceramic is like professional scissors, like
Yeah.
very, whatever, I don't know, quality, whatever, yeah, like for jewelers, stone cutters, God knows, all kinds of people like that, right? They use precise instruments like that, but we don't need that. What do we need that for? I just ordered some plastic ones, on Amazon. That's it. And I paid like, I don't know, a few dollars,
Works the same way.
few pennies, right? That's the thing. So I'm gonna cut them with those, because I ordered some from in America a couple of like 6 months ago, but they're too long, I want to cut them. They just drag everywhere. It's terrible,
Sorry if it's off topic.
Yeah.
What about tefillin? Like
What about tefillin?
on the shalosh, if you feel like your right strap is right strap's technically supposed to be longer than the left because of the
Right,
chesed,
absolutely,
But what if
Ooh.
you feel like
Ooh.
it's kind of long, like it's too long, and you just want to cut it?
Yeah, so the truth is you're allowed to cut it, and I never heard that there's a problem with cutting that tefillin with metal scissors. You know what I mean? There's no issue there. Only with tzitzit there's an issue with this. Right? So just wanted to tell you, right? According to the shot, you see there's no problem. You can cut it. So okay, very good. So whatever, right? Whatever you want to do. By the way, you know what he says, Ben Ish Chai? He doesn't talk about ceramic scissors. He doesn't talk about plastic scissors. In his days, he didn't have either one of these things. So you know what he says? Do it with your nail. He says, cut it with your nails. I'm not strong enough to cut it with my nails. I'm too sensitive for that. You know what I mean? So we're not macho enough for that. Those guys are macho guys. Iraqi guys. Cut it with their nail.
How do you cut it with a nail?
You know what I mean?
I don't get how you cut it with a nail.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to make a YouTube video on that. How do you cut the tzitzit with a nail?
I'm gonna say something like that.
Okay. Okay. Very good. So.
Like which Gemara was this?
Menachot.
this basic?
Menachot.
How do you find that?
We already started with that yesterday, So then he doesn't bring any more. Doesn't say menachot, just says the daf, because it's the same.
It wouldn't say on the bottom, like.
It would
which
say on the
Gemara?
top, just the opposite, right? On the top is going to have it,
Okay.
right? Sometimes, by the way, in these old poskim, they're too cool to say the masechet. So you know what they do? They just say the perek, So you have to know by the perek which masechet it is.
'Cause they
You have to
already-
be,
they already know
you have to be
where it
cool,
is.
a cool guy like that, Otherwise, you're gonna have a problem. Otherwise, you're gonna have to look it up on Google. Which perek is this masechet?
Such a rabbi Google.
Okay, what can you do, right?
Right?
Whatever it is. Okay, we do the best we can. So, ואחד מן החוטים יהיה ארוך יותר כדי שיחרוק בגדיל. So then it goes on to say the Torah. One of the strings should be longer in order to do the windings, right? To wind around. Has to be longer. You need more slack there. Right? Sham, he says, that's all, it's on the Gemara. Lamed Tet Amud Aleph, same place, right? Menachot. Chut shel kerech ole min haminyan. By the way, most of the sugyot about tzitzit and tefillin are menachot. That's where they are. So if you don't know, you can pretty much guess that it's there. Well, most of it, the material is there. Okay, so anyway, right? Go figure. What does menachot have to do with the tefillin and tzitzit? I don't know, but they put it there for some reason. Whatever it is. Okay, so so it says the strings of the winding are also part of the number of the size. In other words, it's not. I'm sorry, it's not. I didn't say it right. Not the size. It's a part of the number of strings. It's also considered to be one of them. So what does that mean? We take 4, right, and we bend it over, make it into 8. So that one is also one of them, right? Don't say I need 4 besides that. No, you need 3 besides that. You need 4 altogether. That's the way it works. That's what he's saying over here. Right? Katav Rosh, says the Rosh, right? Hilchot Tzitzit, Perush Minyan Shmoneh Chutin, right? It's going for the minyan of 8 strings. Right? As we said, the Oseh Echad Mehem Aroch, so you got to make one of them longer. The Korech Bo Saviv Ashiba. You got to go around 7 times, right? Around 7 times.
Which is the shema.
The first one, right? The first one is 7. Right? And then we do, yeah, I'm sorry. What are you saying?
Not the long string
Yeah.
stuff, the shemash. Yes, it's called the shemash.
I don't know. Yeah, we may call it that. I don't know. I don't call it that, but if you want to call it that, no problem.
Just to give it a name so you know what it is.
Okay, it sounds good to me. I thought you were talking about Hanukkah, Shamash. Hanukkah sounds like Hanukkah. Okay, so anyway, I talked about the Shamash tonight, the Hanukkah, but in Chajayah, I talked about that a little bit. What the Shamash is for. So anyway, the point is like this, right? That it's considered to be one of the 8 strings. So that's the way it is. You got to make it longer so you can ride around. That's why, by the way, when you buy tzitzit, usually one of them is going to be longer, right? Because
Yeah.
that's the longer one that they use to wind it and to do the knots, all that stuff, right?
Just to make sure you have enough room to
Absolutely. You got to have more slack there. Absolutely. Okay, very good. So that's the story there. Let's go to Shulchan Aruch, Dalet.
all the way I know.
Did you guys ever make tzitzit before?
Yeah.
Never.
You did?
Make my own tzitzit.
Yeah. Did you ever make it?
Yeah.
So you know how it's done, right? Pretty
Yeah.
much you know the technique.
Mm-mm.
I can do it, but I'm so slow. Oh God, it takes me like 2 hours. So slow. My
Any-
hands are not quick.
Is there anywhere where they teach how to do the practical stuff about this kind of stuff?
Yeah, this is the practical stuff. That's exactly what we're talking about. I mean, you're talking about what actually to
Like
do
how,
it, like
like-
hands-on,
Like a
hands-on stuff.
class, on how they should.
Yeah, I'm sure you can find somebody to do that. There are guys who they want to help you with that. There are guys who do it in the store. Like they're very quick. They can do like 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
They do
4 of them.
Professional.
They do repeatedly.
Right, they're doing it all day. Yeah, so they're very quick and they make it really nice too. Like accurate. Nice. Yeah. In Israel, they have guys like that. They're like incredible. They're
Oh, that's Israel.
yeah, Israel. It's different thing.
Different.
Different air over there. Okay. So let's go to Shulchan Aruch, as we said. Siman Yud Aleph. And we're doing, what was that? Babu we just did?
Dalet.
Dalet, Mechila. Okay, so it says like this in Shulchan Aruch. Orech hachutim hashmona, the length of the eight chutim, the strings, and pachot midalet gudalim, has to be at least 4 thumbs, right? Which is 8 centimeters. That's the first opinion. Okay, first opinion. And then the Eshomrim, Yud Bet Gudalim. And some say it should be 12 fingers, right? The thumbs. So it says minhag is like the second opinion. So therefore, right, you should try to make it longer, not the short way, right?
Right.
This 8 thing, right? I don't want to make this 8 centimeters too strong, too small. The minhag is to do like 12. That means 24 centimeters, at least, as we said. Ulmala and I'm sure, but it says you can make it as long as you want,
That's just the,
as we said, right? As long as you don't mind dragging on the floor.
the minimum requirement.
Exactly. So says the Rama, right, if you make it too long, so you can cut it. There's no problem with tasib and masui. As we said, according to Kabbalah, don't use metal, right? Use other things. Use your nails or your teeth. Your teeth are good. What about your teeth? Can you cut with your teeth?
That's already.
We're too American for that.
One-way
We're
trip
too
to-
spoiled for things like
one-way
this.
trip to the dentist.
Okay. All right. That's not for us. That's not for us. We're American. We're too Americanized.
No can do.
Okay. So, okay. So then he goes on to say, one of them should be a little bit longer, as we said, right? Not a little bit, really significantly longer. In order that you should do the winding, right? The windings. Okay, and then says in parentheses, right? So he explains what's gadil, right? Gadil, it says the part of the tzitzit which is not woven, whatever I don't know what to call that. Okay. Haggah says the Haggah, Rama, Veshur haniskar yeh betzitzit leachar nikshar. Oh, so it says these shurim that we mentioned, the sizes, right, should be after it's tied, not before, right? Because otherwise it's going to be different measure.
Okay.
You understand what that means, right?
Say again,
The shiur that we mentioned, the sizes, should be after it's tied, not before,
after.
because that's gonna otherwise it's gonna be a different size. You know what I mean? Because when you tie it, it gets short all the time. So don't say, "Oh, I have it when it's hanging." Yeah, but when you tie, it's gonna be too short. You know what I mean? That's the whole thing. So You gotta,
It should already be the size before you tie it, or is it
after it should be size. So you have to a little bit more.
once you tie it, it should be already the
24,
size-
at least
size
24 centimeters, right? So what does that mean? You should start off with like a little bit more because otherwise you're gonna be short. Yeah, that's the thing. Okay, very good. So that's the Shulchan Aruch. Dalet, let's go to Hey. Says, okay, so Hey starts in the Torah. Ve'im asa min hakotzin. Let's see where that is. Did we already read this part of the Torah?
Hey, no.
No, we didn't read it, right?
No.
Okay. Just trying to see what it is. Okay, I got it. Ve'im asa min hakotzin. If you made it from a kotzin, right? What is kotzin? Perush min hachutin atluim be'yiri'ah. Oh, so he says these are the strings which are hanging from the fabric. So what does that mean? If you ever notice, by the way, right? Sometimes when they make a fabric, like in the factory, there's like strings hanging off, you know? You ever see that before?
See, maybe
Off the end, you know? The strings hanging off. So you
Mhm.
can't, so he's telling you, right? Don't make it from those things. The tzitzit.
in that particular.
Those strings that are hanging off after the production, after the weaving of the beged. Don't make it from that, right? So it tells you, so kemin chotzin b'derech lekotzitzan. So he says the way is, you know, that you cut them off usually, right? After they make the beged, it doesn't look nice, right? So they cut it off
What was left over from the
from the weaving, right? Yes. Or mina nimin, right? What does nimin? Perush hachutin shemotzin min habeged litfor. These are the strings that they take out of the beged, of the clothing, litfor, to sew it. Or min hachutin sheyotzin b'safat habeged psula. But they're coming out of the end of the beged,
That's already the.
right? Psula. These are all pasul. Okay, good. Where does it stop?
We just stopped.
Okay, great. So those things we're not allowed to use, right? In other words, all these strings which are left over from the production of the beged,
Yeah.
don't use that for tzitzit.
So are they like garbage?
Yeah, you gotta throw them away. What else are you gonna do with it?
what do you
Yeah.
originally make the sit from? From which fabric?
You gotta start with like a string, like a string. You gotta spin it. We talked about this yesterday, right? You spin the string, then you do the plating. You plait it, and then it's ready to go, right?
Has to be from particular fabric.
We usually would make it from wool, right? Today it's all wool. Everything's wool.
The
Yeah.
the actual garment or the string.
The strings, yeah. Usually it's wool today.
Okay.
But technically speaking, right, we always said that you can make it also from other things, depending on what your beggar is made out of. Just make sure it's not shatnez, blah, 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 all that stuff. We talked about that. So then he says, right, okay, so we go now to Bet Yosef.
Yeah.
Bet Yosef. V'im asan min hakotzin. You see where that is?
Yeah.
So it says, Sham, it's over there, also in the Gemara. Mem bet amud bet. Uberesh sukkah, also in the sukkah. Tet amud aleph. It says over there, Amar Rav Yuda, Amar Rav. Rav Yuda says in the name of Rav, Asam min hakotzin. If you made it from the kotzin, or mina nimin, or mina gardin, psula, psula. So all these things that we mentioned, right? These are the three things that we mentioned just now. They're all pasul. Peresh Rashi explains, Beresh sukkah, the beginning of sukkah, mina gardin. What's gardin? So it says panyash. This is like a
It's an old
French, right? Whatever,
language,
yeah. Shetolim besof a talit. They put it in the end of the talit. Mutar la'ariga. It's like the remainder of the weaving. The gadel sham atzitzit mina. So he made the tzitzit from there. You're not allowed to do that, right? Uba umina kotzin or kotzin chutin shenitku b'shtek b'sheti v'koshrin otan betluim rashem bebiged. So he says these are strings which came off from the weaving of the beged, and we tie them, and they're hanging off of the beged, right? Whatever. Le'achar shenerag, after it's woven. The krelahu kotzin, they call it kotzin, al shem sheboltim kekotzin, because they stick out like thorns. Kotz is like a thorn. Okay, whatever. Mina nimin, what's nimin? Kegon talit shetafrua o sheasu ba imra. Let's say they make a talit, right, and they made like some kind of it's like on the edge, it's like a border on the talit. Then bachat with the needle, rashe chutea tfira, and it's with the ends of the strings of the weaving. Tluim ba, they're hanging off it. Umehai gadlu tzitzit, and from there they're going to hang the tzitzit, right? Or to not hang, but to make the tzitzit. Psula is pasul. Why is it pasul? These three things that we mentioned. So he says the reason is because since they're already on the beged and hanging off, right? And they were not hung there for the sake of tzitzit. It has to be lishma, right? So this is not lishma, right? Lav asya lishmahu. It's not lishma. That's the problem. It's not for the sake of tzitzit.
So what's the three things that pasul for you?
These are like types of strings which are left over from the process, of making it,
Okay.
on the end of the beged,
Yes.
or in the middle somewhere, all kinds of extra stuff that got left over. All that junk you can't use, right? Why is that? Because it's already attached to the beged, and it wasn't attached for the sake of tzitzit. That's the whole thing, right? V'arosh katab bilchot tzitzit. Says Rosh in bilchot tzitzit, kotzin hainu chutin hatluim beyeri'ah. He says these are strings which are hanging off the fabric, botin kemin kotzin, and they're sticking out like thorns. V'derech lekotzitzan. He says the way is to cut them off, right? Obviously, you don't want to leave that on. Nimin, what is nimin? According to Rosh, chutin shemotzin min habeged litfor, right? They take out these strings from the beged to sew. Geradin, right? What is geradin? Chutin hayotzin b'sfat habeged psula. They're coming off the edge of the beged, right? Hanging down. Mishum debayat tilya lishma, because you know why? You have to put it lishma, and that's not lishma what you did, right? That's just you made a beged. Adkan, that's what it says in the Rosh. Mashma de lo mifsele ela kishe'asa mehem tzitziot. So it says, right, that it's mashma that it's only pasul when you made tzitziot, be'odam mitchubarim, when they're attached. That's the problem. Because they weren't put there for tzitzit. They're going to have a problem with this ta'asiv lo nisui. What does that mean? That it's like in the wrong order, you're making it. But what about if you cut it off though, right? First you snipped it off, and now, right, you want to work with that, right? That's kosher, right? As long as you cut it off, and now you want to use that for tzitzit, no problem.
Wait, you're taking the leftovers of. Sorry, this makes no sense. Whatever was not supposed to be, like it was pasul to use for tzitzit because it was just hanging.
Right, it was just hanging there, right? Exactly.
And you can use it. And it's
You
considered
took it
kasher?
off, right? Once you took it off, that's it. You're good.
That
Now
makes,
you're gonna, yeah.
it makes no sense because
Yeah.
it's considered leftover and it's pasul to use it tzitzit because it's not used for the shema.
It wasn't done lishma, right? But
Yeah.
now I'm gonna cut it off and now put it lishma. That's gonna be good. You understand?
So whatever is left over that's discarded from the sewing of a cloth,
Uh-huh.
you can use for.
Yeah, you can use it as long as you first cut it off. Right, that's what he's saying.
And then, okay. I thought we just learned before that we cannot use it. We just learned.
Right, cannot use it when it's attached. Yeah, but when you take it off, you're allowed to use it. That's the whole thing, right? That's all. By the way, same thing applies to many things. Like in the laws of sukkah also. Like for instance, I'll give you an example, right? It really corresponds one to the other. Let's say, for instance, right, the schach has to be made for something which is not attached to the ground, right?
Okay.
There's a rule like this. You can't use like tree branches which are attached for schach.
Mhm.
First, you have to break them off. So, what about if I, put it on the sukkah, But now, if I break off the branches, and put it on the sukkah, it's good, right? Same thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
First, I break it off and then I put it. But if I put it and then break it off, no good.
What if let's
You know what I mean? It's the wrong order.
Meaning the root, the branch is still attached to the tree. So
Yeah.
they took a whole chunk.
Right.
of the
To cut it
tree,
off and then put
and
it.
then, I mean, this is still attached.
Same thing. You understand? Same concept. Okay, very good. So let's go on. But it says it has to be two things, right? It has to be spun and also plated for the sake of tzitzit. That's the most important thing, right? So you got to process it for tzitzit afterwards. Right, so that's the way it goes. Okay,
That
got
way-
it,
is that why you say L'Shem Mitzvah Tzitzit
that's
and
exactly what we
not
mentioned yesterday. Right, that's what we said. Well, before we do the whole process, right?
same with writing a Sefer Torah
We say Leshem kedushat tefillin, right? Or
or
kedushat sefer Torah, whatever. Yeah.
Okay, no.
This one is mitzvah. This one is kedusha. Why? Because there's no kedusha in tzitzit. You understand? That's why we call it mitzvah. But tefillin has kedusha, so we say kedusha. It's a difference. Okay. So im hayu tvuin l'shuzin. Right. The Rambam mefresh. So what about the Rambam? What does he say about this? Binyan Achei, he explains it differently, right? It goes different direction. Katab Perk Aleph says in Perk Aleph, Halacha Yud Aleph, then osin otar lo minat tzemer nechaz bekotzin. Oh, so he says, you know what it's talking about? It's talking about wool which was caught into the thorns. In other words, the sheep were like walking, and they got caught in the thorns, and it got like snapped off of them. The thorns snapped it off the sheep. So you're not allowed to use those.
How would you use those thorns for?
Not the thorns, but the wool that got snapped off there. You understand? Yeah, from the sheep, yeah. So it says when the sheep go amongst the thorns, right? And also also don't use right these hairs that were taken off the animal. Hairs. Nimin. And also not from the leftovers of the weaving process. That corresponds to the Rosh. But the other two are a little bit different, right? From the Rosh. Not exactly the same thing. Okay, so anyway, Elamina Giza Shel Tzimmer. So then what should you use? Right? You should use the wool which was sheared off the animal, right? Or mina pishtan, or from the flax, right? If you're making it from linen. So what's the reason why? What do I really care, right? If it came off because of the thorns or it came off because I cut it with the scissors? What difference does it make? You know what I mean? So it tells you, Raman, the difference is that when you're using that stuff which came off with the thorns, it's like it's not respectable for the mitzvah, like this cheap garbage, that came off like that, it's not respectable. It's not respectful of mitzvah.
Even though there's no kiddusha, we still
Right, exactly.
So
It's interesting, yeah.
So does the Rabban disagree with using those leftovers and making it to tzitzit?
He also talked about that as well, the Rambam, but the other two things they need to be explained differently. So it would seem to me that we'll see in the Shulchan Aruch how he paskins, but that's pretty much how it comes out here. We'll see how he paskins in Shulchan Aruch. But so all these things are because these are not respectable things. That's what he's saying. Okay, interesting. Good. Let's go to Shulchan Aruch. Hey. So, says Shulchan Aruch. That Yosef. Yeah. So, "En osin hatzitziot mi'atzemer, hanechaz bekotzin." You don't make the tzitziot that are caught into the thorns, as we said, right? This is the Rambam. Kishatzon rovtzin benehem. When the sheep, like lie down there, they get caught. Velo me'animin at nitashim bebehema. Also, not the hairs which came off the animal. Velo mishure shati, and also not from the remainder of the weaving. She'oreg meshar b'sof habeged. He leaves over when he weaves the beged. These are all because of the mitzvah gets to disgrace, as we said, it cheapens the mitzvah. So he passes like the Rambam, basically, right? He ignores everybody else. Right? You know what he says, right? He says in Siman Lamed Bet, and Avkat Rochel, it says over there, there's a tshuva. He says Rambam Gdola Poskim says, Rambam is the biggest of the Poskim. That's why he favors the Rambam usually over, we favor the Rambam in many cases.
So I don't really follow him though.
So you know what it is? Like if you look in the Shulchan Aruch, basically like 80% of the Shulchan Aruch is like straight copied out of the Rambam.
Even
You know what I mean?
even though we're not really following him anymore.
We are, not, yeah, we are.
Not,
You know what I mean?
we don't entirely follow him.
Right, exactly. It's not entirely, yeah, for sure. Not entirely, but it's about 80%, pretty much.
Even Avavati
Shulchan Aruch.
asking like him.
Yeah, we all do, pretty much, like so he's the Gedolah Poskim, so we give him a little bit more weight than the other Poskim. That's what it is, basically. Especially the starting, especially Ashkenazim give him a little bit less. In other words, with them, maybe it's like, let's say 60%, but that's like 80%, so whatever. I don't have the exact percentages, but
We follow him
something like that, right? Yeah, we follow more, no question about it. Because he, basically, until Maran came along, Maran Bet Yosef, the Rambam was the posek of the Sfardim. Like, they accepted him, as the posek. So, they used to do everything like that. And then when Maran came, they changed, he changed it, but
Not entirely.
yeah, exactly. But there was, three regions, right? There was Eretz Israel in that area, in Middle East. They used to do like the Rambam, everything. In Africa, they used to do like the Rif. And in Europe, they used to do like the Rosh. So that was basically the division there with the Minhagim. Okay, very good. So that's the way it was. Okay, good. So let's go to Vav.
Vav is just 4 words.
4 words.
Oh yeah.
Are you talking about in the Torah?
Yeah.
Okay, what does it say?
Asa mitzama.
Mitzemer Gezul.
Right, Mitzemer,
Psula.
Gazul. He made it from stolen, wool. Pesula, right? Don't steal the wool. Don't go steal the wool. All right, there you go.
Right? Mitzvah, it's mitzvah haba ba'avira.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's true. Okay. So let's see the Bet Yosef. So it says Bet Yosef. Asab mitzemer gazul psula, right? Perek kama de sukkah. It's in the first perek of sukkah, right? The same place as we saw before. Mitam gazul, right? Because of mimayet begazul, it excludes the stolen tzitzit. So it says they should make for them. What does that mean? It belongs to them. But that's how they darshan it, right? Katav Rambam, perek Aleph says the Rambam. Then osin otom mitzemer hagazul. Don't make it from wool which is stolen. If he made it pasul. Rambam says. Okay.
Goes in the garbage.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't have to necessarily go in the garbage, but
He didn't use that.
you can't use it for tzitzit. Let's put it this way, right?
Yes, he stole it or he found that it was stolen.
Doesn't really matter whether he stole it or it was stolen by somebody else. It's all the same. It's all the same. Okay, let's go on. So he says, "Nimukei Yosef katuv be'okol tzitzit." It says in Nimukei Yosef, "The lo mifsal ela keshegazal chutin mamash." So it's only pasul. He says when he stole the strings. Avadim gazal tzemer, but he says if he stole wool, like raw wool, ve'asah chutin, he made the strings out of it. Kshera, kosher. Why? So look what he says, right? The kanya beyush v'shinoi aguf, because he did 2 things over here to acquire it. What is that? First of all, the owner gave up hope, right? He's not going to get that back, right? So he gave up hope. He's mityayesh, and Shunigov, he changed it, right? He altered it by making it into strings. So those 2 things allow you to acquire something which is stolen. So therefore, that's why he says, right? It's good. But he says you shouldn't do that, obviously, right? To make tzitzit out of that.
First it says you cannot use it from stolen wool, and then now it says you can.
Right, but here he's talking about what? That he stole the wool and he made it into strings. So there he says it's okay. I'm not sure if that's halakha, but we're going to see, right? Let's see. Now the Manak analyzes this, right? There's different opinions over here, The Rambam shkata pasul. What about the Rambam that says pasul? Right? He didn't do like to say like the Pen Yoshua. So what do we say about that? If shad the Maire kodem yush, maybe Rambam's talking about before Yush, before he gave up hope, the owner, right? Ename. Alternatively, afilu achar Yush could be also after he gave up hope. Lo kane, he didn't acquire. Why? Mishum dahave shinui achozer lebriato.
Became ownerless.
Look what it says. Now, this is, by the way, this brought down the Choshen Mishpat, the Shulchan Aruch. These concepts are brought down. What is he saying over here? That, as we said, right, 2 things allow you to acquire something. Okay, when the owner gave up hope, and also when it was changed, it was altered, right? You need those 2 things basically.
When it altered.
It was made from raw wool to strings. Alteration, right?
The form of it.
Right, exactly. The form was changed. So those two things allow you to acquire it. But says Maran something interesting, right? Which is brought down also in the Choshen Mishpat over there in Shulchan Aruch. He says, right, that when we say that alteration allows you to acquire it, it doesn't include alteration which comes back to its original form.
Or if they alter something, it doesn't go back to original form anyways.
But sometimes it does. If it does, you don't acquire it. That's the whole thing, right?
Normally it doesn't.
Right. But here it seems to be saying that it does go back. What does that mean?
So if it goes back to originally how it was made or how it was before, then you cannot take it.
So what we're saying is like this, right? That if it goes back to the original form, you haven't acquired it.
It's still
stolen.
It's still the owner's.
Yeah, exactly. Still belongs to him. Yeah. But the truth is, I'm wondering, like, how is it that this goes back to its original form? What happens? I guess you know what it is. It gets worn out, with time, and it just becomes wool again. Maybe that's what he means.
Is
No?
that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, in this sense, it's bad. Why? Because you haven't acquired it. That's the whole thing. Because it's going back to its original form. So therefore, tzitzit is pasul. You know what I mean?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Suppose, like sometimes siblings,
Yeah.
like sometimes like they wear stuff like
Right,
that's theirs and they don't
socks, this,
they don't
underwear. People take your stuff.
like they don't know sometimes.
Right.
What if let's say you accidentally wore like your siblings like tzitzit,
Oh,
like you didn't know about it? Is that considered like stealing?
so you're asking for permission. That's the thing. Asking for permission. Like in other words, you call them up. Give them a call and say, "Do you allow me to wear your tzitzit?" Whatever. But the truth is, that there are certain mitzvot that a person doesn't need permission to wear them. For instance, like tefillin. You don't need permission to wear somebody's tefillin.
But
Just make sure you leave it there. Don't take it home.
But that
Yeah.
that sounds
Yeah.
That kind of sounds like you can use it, but then eventually the owner of the tefillin will be like, "Why are you using my tefillin? I didn't ask you to."
Right. So the thing is like this: the reason we're allowed to use somebody else's tefillin is because we assume that he allows that because it's a mitzvah. In other words, nobody's gonna tell you, like, "Oh, don't use my tefillin," like, don't put tefillin, like, go to work.
You can ask first.
You know what I mean? Like we assume that he wants that, So that's the reason why we allow that.
All right, so
Yeah.
we have three cases. We have
But talit katan, I'm not so sure about that, by the way. That he wants you to use the talit katan because you
Yeah,
get it sweaty and stuff. If he doesn't want you to sweat on your talit katan, maybe he doesn't want that. You know what I mean? But tefillin is something else. It's leather, so it's like more durable. So if person doesn't really wear it. Just for 5 minutes, he puts it on, say Shema, whatever. It's not a big deal. You know what I mean?
Not the same case for lulav.
Yeah, lulav, right? Lulav is also right. The first day, it's a whole issue, right? The first day, it has to be yours. Okay, whatever. So anyway, right? As we said, so here it seems like okay. So the Maran seems to be saying, right, that the Rambam doesn't agree with Nimukei Yosef.
he says that you could still use it even though it's stolen.
So Rambam seems to say that, yeah, you can't use it at all, no matter
We
what.
follow like him.
It seems like it's from here, but we'll see the Shulchan Aruch, right? Let's see the Shulchan Aruch.
Just to check, we have three gears. If it's hefker, you can use it. If it's not hefker, you cannot use it. But if the wool changed back to its original form, then you cannot use it.
So you need two conditions to use it, right? One is that you gave up hope, the owner, and number two, the form changed. But here it's going to change back, so therefore we don't care about it,
We have Zion actually.
Okay, so first we're going to do Shulchan Aruch Vav.
Go back.
Yes.
This is just more of an abbreviation at the back of the book
That what?
of what we already read
What the
here.
Shulchan? Yeah, the Shulchan Aruch is a kitzur. It's a short form,
It's abbreviation.
right? The short form, yeah, absolutely. You gotta watch out, by the way. That don't think just because you read the Shulchan Aruch you understand everything. You don't until you see the bit yourself. You don't understand what's going on in the Shulchan Aruch. Right? So what does that mean? Don't just be so quick to like paskin stuff from there. Yeah, it says in Shulchan Aruch. So I understand. Yeah, if it means like this, it means like this. Make deductions. If you didn't see the bit yourself, watch out. You know what I mean? Be
Right.
careful.
Didn't they just write Shulchan Aruch?
Right, but you have to see the long form, because you
He
got to see the
gives
reasons behind it,
More
the
detail.
opinions, exactly. You got, because otherwise you don't know how to manipulate that stuff, to play with it. You don't know how to play with that stuff. So you got to be careful with the Shulchan Aruch, don't be so. Says the Chida, Maran Chida. If you didn't learn Bet Yosef, you're not allowed to pass on halacha before. You're not passing halacha unless you learn Bet Yosef. Don't touch it.
How about Bet Yosef alone?
Yeah, I mean, you still have to do some, Shulchan Aruch, but the truth is that Bet Yosef is more important than Shulchan Aruch. That's the bottom line. But the Shulchan Aruch is also necessary because it gives you the final, simplifies it for you, But you have to know what's in the back of that, behind. You have to know what's behind that. You know what I mean? Like, otherwise, you're in trouble. Okay, so good. So let's see what it says right here. Shulchan Aruch Vav. Okay, says Shulchan Aruch. Im asam mitzemer gazul. If you made it from stolen wool, pisulim, right? Not like Pnei Yoshua, right? Straight Rambam. No monkey business, right? Dichtiv v'asulam tzitzit mishanahem. So why? Because it says they should make for them tzitzit for themselves, right? Their own. That's the duke from pasuk.
Out of somebody else's account.
Exactly. Says the Rama, v'davka keshegazal achutin. So he brings up Pnei Yoshua, the opinion of Pnei Yoshua. That's only if he stole the strings. But if he stole wool and he made it into strings, sherim, right? Miu, but he says they're kosher. Miu, however, lechatchila asur asur, but lechatchila don't do it. So he brings the opinion of the Pnei Yoshua, right? The Rama.
He's more makel, I guess.
Yeah, the truth is, there's a rule like this brought down in there's a book called En Itzchak. You ever hear about this book?
In
En
Yitzchak,
Itzchak. You ever hear about this?
I think so.
It's written by Rabbi Yosef, like
Oh.
three volumes. So it talks about the rules of Paskin Halacha, there's rules,
How
right?
to pass.
Right, exactly. So one of the rules that he brings there is, how do we how do we read the Ramah, So he says the way you have to read the Ramah is like this. If the Ramah says just another opinion, that means he doesn't Paskin like it, just brings it down, But if he says V'chen nohagim, like this minhag, or V'chen halacha, so that means that he paskins like it. So, here it doesn't say, right? That's halacha. So therefore, he's just bringing it down, but it seems like he's not pasking like it. You know what I mean?
In halacha would be
V'chen halacha, right? V'chen halacha, right? Or v'chen minhag, right? V'chen nohagim. Here it doesn't say that. So therefore, the halacha is like the first opinion, right? That's pretty much the story over here.
How does he know that?
These are brought down in the books of the Achronim, these rules. They're brought down. It's a tradition. Yes.
Rabbi, I'm gonna have to leave. There's a tornado siren going on.
Oh my God, be careful. God save you. Hashem shall help you. Get into a safe place. Oh my God, she's got a tornado going on.
Where's she from?
She lives in Dallas.
The one that we,
They're converted, yeah, that lady, yeah.
Dallas, Texas.
Yeah. Huh?
Dallas,
Yeah,
Texas.
Dallas, Texas.
Yeah.
Wow.
Tornado. In this shul, you don't need tornado. The people are tornado over here. God made my tornado.
Now we're getting personal.
It's not personal. It's just
Oh,
okay. So God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. Okay. So anyway, right as we said, you shouldn't do it. He says, don't do it. Okay, so that's the idea. That's Vav.
If you do it, then
Yeah.
okay, you did it, so it doesn't matter. You continue.
Right, but diavad is kosher, right? But diavad is kosher. According to Nimuk Yosef.
There's no Siv Zayin in the Torah. There's
But
only Bet
only,
Yosef.
Okay, there's only Bet Yosef. Okay, let's see what that is. Let's see how long it is. It's short, so we can do that. Yeah, we'll finish with that one.
Mhm.
So it says Katav or Nimuk Yosef. Says Nimuk Yosef another thing, right? The chutin she'ulim ksharim. It says you're allowed to use borrowed strings. That's okay, The mistama al dat halava'ahu. Why is that? Because we assume that the one who lent you allows you to use it as well. You know what I mean? In other words, to use it. and then he's going to give him back some other thing, right? Instead of that. Even lechatchila you can use that, right? Borrowed strings. Also says in Itur like that. This is the language of Itur. Chutin she'ulim. So strings which are borrowed, right? Halva'a, it's a loan. And you don't like to give back that same wool, right? You're going to give back some other wool. So therefore, it's considered to be like his. Once you borrow it, it's like yours because you're not going to give that back, right? You're going to give back something else. So therefore, it's kosher to use for tzitzit.
But how will we figure something out based on assumption?
What does that mean?
I mean, like, I'm taking it because I'm assuming that the guy wouldn't mind that, I would take his, stuff and use it for something.
Right. No, but here it's not a matter of assuming anything. Here, in this case, what we're saying is that basically the law says, it's halacha like this in monetary law. Choshen mishpat, talks about monetary law. There's a rule like this when you borrow something from somebody. Okay, whether it's money or some, let's say sugar, right? I don't know. You went to your neighbor, right? Can I borrow some sugar, cup of sugar, right? Yeah, exactly. Right. Making some cake, So he doesn't expect you to give back that sugar, he's gonna give back some other sugar. You know what I mean? So that sugar is gone. He knows that, right? That's the reason. That's what we're saying. Understand? This is the concept. Yeah, exactly. You're not gonna give back that sugar,
Like the amount of the sugar.
Right, exactly. So therefore, that sugar is yours. You acquired it. That's it.
So it's like
That's it.
it's like a gift. I'll give you. Okay, no problem.
Right, exactly. It's more,
Kindness
it's,
or
yeah,
whatever.
like a gift, except you have to give it back, right? Some other thing to give it back. So this is like a rule, but it's not really an assumption here. It's like a rule, in halakha. This is the rule. Okay, so let's see Shulchan Aruch on that, and we're done. Short one. Right, so it's chotin sholin, right? Strings which are borrowed, halva'ahi. So this is like, you're borrowing it. What does that mean? You're not getting it back in the same form. The lo hadre be'anayu, so it says they're not going to be given back in the same form as when you borrowed it. And therefore, it's like it's going to be his. So therefore he's allowed to use it. Lechatchila, right? As we said, right? Chazak Baruch, thanks for coming. God bless. Hope you feel better. You got a cold?
No, I'm okay. I always have this
All right.
tick.
Yeah, I got it. I understand. Okay, thanks for coming, everybody.
And
Yeah, what do you say?
I just remembered, like you mentioned about Sukkot.